Joe here for Stretford Paddock. It's not Jay, it is Joe, and I'm joined. Come in, get in.
Yeah, no,
I'm joined by Ronaldo. How you doing, mate?
There's a reason off camera why I kind of increased my distance away from you.
Why?
Because you farted.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But what we're going to talk about is it a potential turning point for Manchester United? We've got a few things to get into. There's one story about potential favouritism from Ten Hag, some people getting pissed off. We'll analyse that. Is it bullshit, first of all? And if it isn't, is there reason for people to think what they're thinking? We've got a few other things to talk about. Maguire, Hojlund, and Onana as well. And just this general feeling of these results, bad performances, good results. Can that sort of turn things in the right direction? First of all, how are you doing tonight? You all right?
I'm doing all right. How
just
are you?
Watch Newcastle.
Yeah, just
lose
watch.
to Dortmund. How does that make you feel?
Do
you care?
I don't feel like I care at all. Actually.
No, I don't care.
I don't really care either way if they won. I don't care if they lost. I know some people do say when an English team is playing in Europe, you should kind of want them to win, but I don't think really that's the case.
That's proper 1950s mentality, that, isn't it?
I watched it just to enjoy the game of football.
Yeah.
Do I care if they lost? Do I care if they won? Not in the slightest.
Yeah. For those who are wondering, Jay is currently on holiday. Well, he's not on holiday. He's having a little break.
He's on holiday. He was at Old Trafford earlier.
Yeah, but well, I mean, what
it didn't sound like
holiday?
he was in the Bahamas.
He's off work anyway, isn't he? So you know.
Yeah.
But we've got a few comments already. People talking about is scraping and being second best at home against Minnows in the Champions League group stages a good result? Well, winning is a good result. The result you're talking about the performance there. The performance wasn't great, but the result was great. But we'll get into that in a minute because I think there is reason to be slightly cheerful at Manchester United at the moment. Is Jay getting his head shined? That's part of the holiday. Any good holiday has a buffing section, doesn't it? Right, let's start with this favouritism thing then, because this is a story that's sort of come out in the from Team Talk, which again we will analyse the veracity of this statement. But let me just read through this.
Good word.
Erik Ten Hag, what? Erik Ten Hag to drop players he likes.
That was very tabloid. I don't know if that was accidental or not, but that was very tabloid.
Who the fuck is Erik Ten Hag? That sounds like a DVD you've got hidden under your bed, Alexei. Who is Erik Ten Hag? He's your manager. Oh, so hard to drop the players that he likes. Is that the pun today?
It sounds very headline, isn't it?
It is very headline. Erik Ten Hag to drop the players he likes. Awful. Erik Ten Hag has been accused of favouritism towards certain players. Several Manchester United players are reportedly unhappy with what has been perceived as favouritism from Erik Ten Hag. That's according to a Team Talk journalist, Fraser Fletcher. Ooh. There you go. Who claims a number of players are upset with the manager's decision to keep on starting players who have been playing far from their best. There were also reports weeks ago that Sancho's nose had been put out of joint by Anthony continually being selected no matter how badly he plays or how many mistakes he makes. First of all, let's just assume that Team Talk and Fraser Fletcher have got this spot on.
Reputable, yeah.
And you know, what do you make of that idea that there's this sort of favouritism and that people would be getting unhappy about that? Is it A, true, and B, is that rare? Is that uncommon?
That's not rare in the slightest, though.
Yeah.
I think it's the same for anything that has like authority. You've got teachers that sometimes have a teacher's bet or students they like or whatever, but I think it's the same thing in football. Managers have players that kind of feel like they can fit their style a little bit more, take on information, take on instruction a little bit more. And he's obviously brought him from Ajax for a lot of money. I don't know whether he's got a lot of pressure to play him in that sort of instance when you talk about Anthony. But I think managers having players that they are slightly like warm to a little bit better or do favour it is relatively normal. But I think because United aren't doing well and players aren't performing, it's obviously much more of a factor, especially in a dressing room like United, where there's a lot of egos, a lot of people that are on a lot of money, a lot of big-time internationals. If they're not getting games, they're going to look at the player that's playing in their position and thinking, is he really better than me? If he's playing, I think it is normal to feel like that. I think that shows a relative amount of competition, but it's not something that's too unusual. But in terms of actually agreeing with it, you could say, but for someone like Sancho who's turning his nose up at the fact that Anthony's playing over him, has Sancho done enough in the United shirt to kind of warrant arguing about that? Yeah. I know that Anthony's Anthony's not exactly set the world alight, but one thing that he has done is he's shown a little bit of grit and determination when he does play for United, which Sancho hasn't. If Sancho was actually playing well in the times that he got opportunity, then you could kind of see a bit of an argument. But for other players, maybe. But I think the Sancho-Anthony one, I think it's two players that are kind of weighing up who's playing worse and who should play, rather than someone actually taking that position by the scruff of the neck and saying, this is mine, I'm going to play well.
Yeah. And if you think about who's playing that isn't doing very well, you could maybe say Rashford, but then when Garnacho started games, I don't think he's looked that much better or any better than Rashford. Casemiro's one maybe that you could say he's not been at his best and he plays when he's fit. But again, who are the alternatives? Scott McTominay hasn't got much of an argument to say he does better when he plays.
Maybe Maguire thought that about Lindelof, I don't know.
Maybe. But I'm trying to think
not any major ones.
It can't be anyone in the defence because everyone at the back has had chance to play because of how many injuries we've had. Like, we're literally down to Johnny Evans starting games for Man United. So I can't imagine it's a defender thinking that. If it's in midfield, I mean, yes, maybe Bruno's not been at his best, but again, Mason Mount thinks he should have a shot of I can't even imagine who it would be other than Sancho.
I don't think you want to have players that are happy about not playing.
That's a good point.
But in the same instance, you do need a team spirit and a culture in terms of things. Obviously, I watched Newcastle earlier, and I don't think they have the same amount of quality, if I'm honest, as a United. But the way they play, the way they work hard for each other, and kind of the energy in the team, something that I've not seen at United for a long time. And that does come from players kind of buying into all the same thing, whereas United do have this individuality kind of culture going on, which obviously is turning out to poor results and poor performances and just reports like this coming out. But if I'm looking at it, it does look like it's Sancho that has said it about Anthony. I can see a little bit of credence in that. And then the journalist has then kind of extrapolated it and said,
he's not the only one.
He's not the only one.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know how true that is, but if it is the case, I think it is normal. But club like United, media, big team, not doing well, I feel like reports like that are just going to be regurgitated and just come back out and out and out again. But I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think in terms of what the actual talking point is, in terms of Ten Hag being someone that has favourites, could argue that. You've got the likes of Bruno, Rashford, and Anthony, etc., that do play week in, week out, even if they aren't performing. But I don't know. Sometimes I think in clubs it goes beyond the manager,
In what sense?
In sense, I don't know, it comes down to player power at some clubs. Sometimes it won't just be a Ten Hag that has a say in who plays and who starts. If Rashford's just been given a new contract for 400k, I think like sometimes United as an institution want to kind of see a return on that. So why are you benching our 350k a week pound player? That kind of comes into it. Why are you benching Anthony? We've spent 80 million on him. You have to play him. Do you know the time? There was a large spell where Maguire was playing week in, week out when he was playing poorly. And everyone was like, he's only playing because we spent 80 million on him. That's the reason we haven't sold him. There is a little bit of that comes into play as well.
Yeah, I think there might be. Just talking about Harry Maguire, so let's move on to that in just a second. But before that, we've got a few comments. People talking about Sancho and Anthony and the money we spent on him, and the need for a director of football and that sort of thing. And I do think that the need for a director of football goes beyond just transfers as well, because if you look at Woodward and the time he had at United, and I was realising this the other day because I was thinking about Ten Hag and how I think he is the right man for the job. I do think he's a very good manager. The fact that we're going through this spell where you want to look and you think, what are the tactics? Why don't they look like they're being tactically sort of managed and coached, and there isn't these patterns of play that you expect and all this stuff? And then you think, but we know that Ten Hag is a man with an eye for tactics. He was at Ajax. He's spoken about it many times. He loves systems and positions and detail, and he's not someone that's just go out there and play. We know that for a fact. So the fact that they aren't playing to an obvious system, to me, is either his inability to, maybe have that sort of man management style to get people to like him and to go along with his tactics, or there's a problem with these players and the lack of confidence and whatever else. But then I thought, this is where you need a director of football or someone in power who knows enough about football to say, actually, he is the right man for the job. Like, we know enough about him, he knows enough about football, Ten Hag knows enough about football that we aren't getting rid of him. So even if it takes 4 or 5 years for him to turn this around, or maybe not, obviously not 5 years of being awful, but let's say we have 1 year where we sort of take half a step back and it's not just third, second, first, we're still going to stick with him because we know how good he is. And I was thinking under Woodward, he just ran Man United like a fan, not like a football person. Like, oh, I want to get big name players in, get Di Maria, get Lukaku, get Pogba, get all these lot, get them in. Oh, we've lost a few games, we'd better sack the manager. There was never any like, I trust my footballing knowledge to say Louis van Gaal is the right man for Man United. We're going to stick with him. We need someone like that, I think, with Ten Hag, who has got enough footballing knowledge, enough reputation in the game, where if he says, Erik Ten Hag is the man, we are sticking with him, I know he's good enough that the rest of United would agree, because at the minute you've got people who haven't made decisions of this size and this scale before, having to go defend the manager, and you go, well, what do you know, John Murtaugh? John Murtaugh, tell me what evidence you have as a man and as a career that Ten Hag is the right man for the job. He can't do it.
Yeah, no.
There's nowhere to draw from. And United need people who can back their own decisions and say, Ten Hag's the right guy, we're sticking with him, there's a bit of a malaise at the minute, but we'll come through the other side because he is correct. And we haven't got anyone like that.
That is accurate, because I think football now, because it's become so meticulous, it's become more and more chess-like, especially at the top level, where players, in terms of profile, need to be specific, whether they match the style, and sometimes that kind of, it can bridge the gap in terms of quality. You've even seen it at Tottenham or whatever. But if you look at the big clubs now, the ones that are doing well, the likes of Arsenal and City, and even if you look at where Ajax, when Ten Hag was there, and he had like Overmars and Van der Sar, and everything's almost in unison. And then you've got the same at Arsenal now, where Arteta's and Edu and
former players, top-level players.
They're all very like interlinked in terms of the way their thought process is. It's the same with Pep and Mansour, and I think their director of football, or
Tiki Berg,
is it Tiki? Yeah, Tiki, whatever his name is.
He was a professional footballer, top-level footballer.
But I think that there's a bit of magic in that, in terms of there being a direct kind of philosophy in terms of knowing what players to go for, how they fit the style, how they fit the culture, and almost like the brainstem of the manager and director of football all almost being on the same wavelength. And then you see kind of the fruits of that labour in terms of Arsenal and City, and even the club that he probably was at in terms of Ajax, where everything seems a little bit easier. And then because of the philosophy that he did play with the 2 10s, and he had Berghuis and Gravenberch and De Jong and Alvarez, and they're all playing the exact way that he wants to play. I think he's come to United and he's never exactly had the right pieces, especially because from what I've heard about Ten Hag, is he's very, 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 very like almost sergeant-like in the way he drills tactics, and he's very information heavy or whatever. And then he's come into a mixture of players where it's kind of like it's not worked in the same way, because you've got players that don't fit, you've got players that do fit, and it's almost like square pegs and round holes. You've seen that a lot as well in terms of players playing out of position. So obviously, he has done things that have not been great in terms of his in-game management, and some of the tactics and the selections have been quite baffling. But at the same time, I think under the conditions that United are currently at, it's tough for any manager. And we can't use that as an excuse time and time and time again, but I'm not going to lie to you, the cesspit that United has become in some ways makes it difficult for any manager to succeed. And until that changes, and that starts with the Glazers and all time again and below it, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to take a special manager on a lot of time to kind of overachieve beyond that.
Pull us out of it.
Do you know what I mean?
And I was looking at the game against Copenhagen as well, and weirdly, so like in the first half, I know it was McTominay and Amrabat, and everyone was going, you know, why are we playing McTominay and Amrabat? McTominay, yes, he can score a goal here and there, but as a midfielder, he doesn't get involved with all these things. But everyone knows, why can't Ten Hag see it? Why is Ten Hag doing this? And then he made that sub at half-time and brought Eriksen on for Amrabat, and it completely changed the game. And it changed our ability to make chances. It made United so much more dangerous. Eriksen won man of the match, the official man of the match. And weirdly, that made me go, it almost breathed a sigh of relief, because you realised Ten Hag knows that Eriksen is the man who can unlock defences better than McTominay or Amrabat. But he also knows that Eriksen, when he's fatigued in the game, just gets pissed past by everyone. So he plays 45 minutes. So it's almost like the first half was like, just stay in the game, hopefully we can get a goal against Copenhagen. But if not, we've got Eriksen to come on at half-time. He can do his thing. And it made me think, like, if we could just have an Eriksen with legs, United could do that for 90 minutes. And then you think, who's an Eriksen with legs? Frankie de fucking Jong.
Yeah, I know.
Like, it's all... I know, obviously, you can't have a team that needs one particular player, otherwise they're shit. But, like, if we just had him, he could do so much of what Eriksen does. But he's better defensively. He's got the legs. He's got the energy.
He's a lot more all-rounded, yeah.
He's much more well-rounded. And you think, Ten Hag knows what he's on about. He's not just guessing. Like, he knows that if you start Eriksen from the beginning, 65 minutes onwards, they are running past him non-stop. And I just think, it made me always go, part of this is just we haven't got the right players yet. We haven't got the squad yet.
I think he wants to play a very technical brand of football, right? And I did tweet this. I think United's kind of technical floor of the team is quite low. As in, the lowest and the least technical players are very... Like the base level technicality of Manchester United, player for player, is actually quite low, if you actually look at it, in comparison to some of the other teams that we're trying to rival. I think I did say, like, I feel like the base technicality of Manchester United probably is maybe one of the worst out of the top 8. And I think Eriksen's second half performance was actually something that highlighted it even more. I would see passages of play from Copenhagen, little bits of plays, little 1-2 from
flicks around the corner, runs off the ball,
stuff like them. The left winger was very tidy and dangerous and whatever. And I'm looking at that and thinking, that bit of play, I don't see that from us. This is Copenhagen, by the way. And United, everything looks very deliberate and almost mechanical, and players are giving the ball away or like not passing with the right weight or passing it behind people. You've got McTominay, who plays in midfield but completes very few passes. And I'm looking at it thinking, I think United actually have a little bit of a technical issue, which is a problem, because if you look at the likes of Amrabat and Casemiro and Mount and Fernandes, who are very much more like, they're not very control kind of savvy type of football in terms of get your foot on it, keep it very tidy. Do you know what I mean? Bruno's more of an output monster, and then Mount's a little bit more dynamic and he likes to run with it, and or whatever. And you've got Amrabat, who's much more of a destroyer, who can play a bit, but he's not like Eriksen level. And you've got Casemiro, who's struggled with his passing this season. So we've got a lot of midfielders that can't really pass the ball exceptionally well. Apart from Eriksen, who, if he's not managed well and he's playing too many minutes, he's basically a traffic cone out of possession. I think United have a huge problem in that, and I think it even starts from the back four, because if you look at it, without Martinez, I think Martinez's injury, people look at it defensively, but I think it's much more of an issue in possession.
I completely agree. Someone made this point before about how United can't be expected to play out from the back if the players who are playing out from the back don't have a pass, or Onana or whoever. Martinez is by far the best at either finding a pass where others couldn't. Like, even if Rashford or Bruno or whatever isn't quite in the perfect spot, like they would need to be from McTominay to make that pass, he can still find it. But he's so good at pushing out with the ball, almost past his midfielders. He'll go past Casemiro or past McTominay with the ball at his feet to find that gap himself.
There was a reason why Martinez was Arteta's first choice for that the Zinchenko role. Because he went from because he came to United instead. But United are without probably, I said there's a technical ability issue sometimes generally at United, but we've got two of our most technical players injured, which obviously doesn't help. I think Martinez and Luke Shaw are probably technically one of our two better players.
I agree.
And then everyone else, you got Reguilon, who's all blood and thunder, pace, energy, and you've got Maguire, who's very hit and miss technically. You've got Varane, that's never been his excellent trait. You've got Delo, who can be a little bit inconsistent, even though he's got a bit of it. If you go throughout the team, maybe you've got Anthony, who's quite technical. I think that's why he plays a lot, because he offers a bit of balance and helps you control on that side.
Sancho's quite technical.
And Sancho,
but that situation is so far gone now that he's not going to be, starting over Rashford anytime soon, is he?
Exactly. We played Copenhagen yesterday at home, and what was the possession stats? I feel like they were quite even.
It felt 50-50.
I think Copenhagen actually had more in the first half. So it's like, I don't know, I think there's a lot of problems, and I think this rebuild of United, I think we want success now, we want to see growth in performances, but I think this team's still one that's in transition and still needs a lot more. And that's the problem, and this is the issue as well. We go into the transfer window for the past 2 years and said, we need a right winger, we need this and that. We're spending big money in these positions, and then having the same needs in that position a year or two later. You get Sancho wrong, you get Anthony wrong, and then you're back to square one. And it all comes down to recruitment. And the issue is, people will obviously realise this, you have one wrong summer in terms of recruitment, and that one wrong summer can set you 4 or 5 years back.
Yeah, because
Do you know what I mean?
it's the manager sacked first of all, so then
So-
you've got to get a new manager in. He has 18 months of buying his own players. Then you've got to see if that's successful. Then you said you're 4 years down the line, everything's changed, and 6 of the players that were there before don't fit now because it's a new system.
Exactly.
And that's the other thing is, and before we move on, we've got into a little bit of sort of, therapy for United tactics in the minute. But I just think that the ability for a manager to replace the players he's bought seems to be one that's such a sort of poo-pooed phrase. Like, if you don't get it right with the first 11 players you buy, you're sacked. Where actually, yes, we've got Casemiro in, but maybe this is a bad example. But yes, he bought Casemiro, Ten Hag bought him, it was a big money signing, whatever. But it wasn't his first choice, and it's now looking a bit shaky as a thing. So let's say that Casemiro doesn't turn his form back around and he just sort of is on a downward spiral. You can't just say, well, he's tried to sign Casemiro, it didn't work out, so sack him. He's terrible in the transfer market. Yeah. Well, how about we have people above Ten Hag who actually know more about signing players than he does? Why don't we have scouts who know more about finding players than he does? It shouldn't all be on the manager. And sometimes you should say, actually, sorry, Erik, we're not getting him because we've got this and this guy instead. He's 22, he's 26 and he's 17. We're going to get them 3 and that is your midfield for the next 10 years. But we don't have anyone with any knowledge over the manager, which is why we end up signing everyone he wants. And sometimes it don't work out. I just feel like we need people who are experts at what they do, and we don't seem like we have that at all.
Yep.
Right, let's move on then. Speaking of experts, Harry Maguire. He's absolutely an expert. Right, we did start Maguire. Very nice, that's good. A little, what is it, Billy Joel or something? Yeah. Billy Joel and that. Now he's scoring, his career is turning. You've gone a bit far there.
So you started off Tadblow with 10 hard.
Yeah.
Don't know what you meant by that. But anyway,
so
now you've gone on to...
Is the expectation now that I read this whole thing like a verse from that song?
Yeah, it looks like that.
Erik Ten Hag, Harry Maguire dominating opponents. Harry Maguire, no, that's not going to work. Harry Maguire broke the deadlock in the 72nd minute with a header and has enjoyed a run of first-team football after falling out of favour. He's playing much more proactively in possession, stepping in, passing vertically, said Ten Hag. He's defending on the front foot, defending forward, very confident in the duels. I think he's dominating in the right way with his aggression against opponents. You see, he also gets rewarded, of course. His heading is a skill, and it was a very good finish. It was a good finish. What do you make of, not necessarily Maguire, his form in particular, but just the idea that whatever his best is, we're starting to see him almost back to his best. Maybe his best isn't good enough. To me, it's just a good sign that you've got a player who's starting week in, week out for United because of injuries, whether you like it or not, playing more like himself. To me, is something to be happy about. What do you reckon?
Yeah, of course he is. I think he's had a decent run of form in the past few games. He's someone that we've obviously been very critical of. One thing he has shown to some people might say rightly or wrongly is a great amount of mental fortitude. I think he showed a great deal of mental strength, and I think he has played. He played well on the weekend. I think he played very, very steady yesterday as well, and without Martinez and Lindelof kind of not putting in great performances the past few games, I think it's been a welcome sign that Maguire's been able to come in and be strong. But hopefully it's a sign of things to come. Hopefully he doesn't revert back to the mean and the errors start to creep back in. Yeah. But as for now, the fact that he's playing as well as he has and he gets his goal, he got the assist the other day for McTominay's winner. Yep. It's a good sign.
Yeah, it is. And he's not going to become, Franco Baresi just because he's got a bit of mental strength. But I do respect the fact that yes, he's had a couple of maybe sort of ill-phrased comments about him backing himself and I don't need to prove myself, and I get that. But in the grand scheme of lashing out against being stripped of the captaincy, dropped out of the team, threatened, becoming a sort of constant internet meme, the butt of jokes in what was it? Some parliament in where was it? Did you see that? I can't even remember where it was. And he's become this almost sort of fictional character. And you think his entire response to that is, you know what, I don't need to prove myself, I've done a lot with my career, I've won a lot of games. The numbers speak for themselves. I think that's not a huge sort of step out of line from him. And I think he's knuckled down and he's playing for United, and he looks, again, he's still got the same weaknesses. We still know what he's like, but we're seeing a player more similar to the one we saw in 2020 than the one we've seen over the last 18 months, because the mistakes, like you said, were creeping in. He just looked a complete shell of himself. And actually, last 2 or 3 games, we've seen a player that looks like he's got a bit more confidence, which is just good, because he's going to play for United. So he might as well play his best, and I think that's all right. Ghanaian Parliament it was, apparently. Which is just mad, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
He was brought up.
He
in
was
that,
used
like,
as an analogy. Yeah.
I mean, come on. Maguire Ballon d'Or now, says Key Buckley. I can't agree more. It's got to be, innit? It's got to be. It's the first centre-back to win the Ballon d'Or since Cannavaro. I think he can do it. England win the World Cup. He scores a hat-trick in the final at Euros.
I think me and Maguire have the around the same chances.
Really?
Of winning the Ballon d'Or. Around.
And you're one of the favourites for next year, aren't you?
Yeah.
Let's move on then to Onana. Another player, not quite the same situation, of course, because
I was expecting to see the Rihanna lyrics.
Red
The trend you was on.
Onana, what's his name?
Yeah.
Red Onana Redemption. That kind of works a little bit more, but Onana is nothing like the word dead, is it?
Everyone thought his career was dead.
Red Onana Redemption. That is abysmal.
That is awful.
I'm sorry. That is when I first read that, I thought it was like some sort of Red Onion reference.
A Red Onion Redemption. Do you like Red Onion?
I love Red Onion.
Do you prefer it to White Onion?
100%.
Do you?
I'd have Red Onion in anything.
I do. Red Onions are fantastic.
Yeah, they are. Brilliant.
Probably the best. I don't know if you could consider it a veg. It is a veg, obviously.
It is a veg.
But it's not like a veg.
It's the best vegetable.
It is the best vegetable. It's the only ingredient that's in every country's cuisine, apparently.
Because it's flavoursome, it's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
It's probably got antioxidants in it, does it?
Yeah,
Onions?
surely.
Yeah,
It must have
healthy,
some sort
yeah.
of oxidants of some description. Yeah, it reduces inflammation. It adds flavour. Crunchy, crisp.
Superfood.
Superfood. Just say all the keywords. Superfood. What's the other one? Full of electrolytes, probably.
Vitamins.
Vitamins. Right, let's talk about Onana instead of Red Onion Redemption. Onana produced a stunning save from the spot to earn Erik ten Hag's side a priceless victory at home to Copenhagen. It comes after a difficult opening 2 months for Onana. Paul Scholes told TNT Sports after the match he became a hero. It will do him the world of good. Rio Ferdinand said this could change his season, and I hope it does, confidence-wise. I hope he grows now. This is massive for him getting confidence now, and he can go from strength to strength. All players need that, and I'd like to think this is the one. A last-second penalty save to essentially keep us in the Champions League. Maybe I'm going slightly too far there, but it really would have put us in a horrendous position to try and qualify.
Put us in Europa League contention.
Is as good a kickstart to a career as you can hope for, isn't it?
I was buzzing.
Yeah.
As anyone was. But he's had a difficult start to his United career, that's for sure. He's had errors, but also the problem with what's happened to Onana is when I've looked at Onana, especially when he initially came and the way he played at Inter Milan, he very much looked like, obviously people don't say it as much for a keeper, but it definitely looked in his instance, he's a confidence player. And you could tell that a bit of his aura and presence and his confidence that he came to United with was like slowly fading, and that would happen after you're making errors and you're making mistakes. You've seen him even take less risk in possession. Yeah. Like he's hitting he's hitting the ball long a lot, he's launching it up the field a lot, he's not trying to find those passes. Don't know whether that's an instruction from Ten Hag because he doesn't think we have the technicality in the back line to kind of play out with Martinez out and Shaw not playing. And obviously I feel like every shot that came towards him looked like it might go in. But I thought yesterday was great because he had one of his stronger performances. I think he had a couple of good saves in the game actually.
Yeah, he did. Even
before the penalty save. And then to save the penalty like that at the end was hopefully something that turns his season around, and we kind of see the keeper that he was for Inter Milan, and he can get back in a good run, in a good vein of form, especially because we are going to need it. Do you know what I mean? And people are going to obviously pull up a lot of talking points, as they do when it comes to United, and we want the keeper not to be one of them because it's at the end of the day, it's your last line of defence. Yeah. And you need it to be secure.
I mean, he won us the game. As much as Maguire's header won us the game, that penalty save, as a goalkeeper, you can't do more than stopping a penalty for the last touch of the game.
He reacted very, very, very nonchalantly to it as well. So like almost he's not going to get carried away with it, but he knows that there's more work to be done. He did say it after the game, but hopefully we do see the Onana we saw in pre-season for the rest of the season.
Yeah, some of the passing, and like you said, he has gone in his shell a little bit. And I think that's to be expected, like you said.
Yeah.
If Martinez isn't there, if Luke Shaw isn't there, especially I think Luke Shaw, every keeper we've had for the last, 9 years, whether that be De Gea, whether that be Romero, whether it be whoever, or even centre-backs, if you don't know what to do, you just chip it to Luke Shaw and he'll sort it. Because like you said, he's so technical. His first touch is, I think, one of the best in the Premier League.
You can criticise anything you want to say about Luke Shaw, but if you say that he's not a good technical footballer in terms of homing, you are lying.
Yeah,
anyway,
his touch and his vision and his unflappability on the ball.
Could talk about
so good.
Could talk about his concentration, his desire. Sometimes he switches off. Sometimes he can be a little bit like his mind's not there. But in terms of a pure footballing standpoint, he is one of our more technical players, and I think that's why he was used quite a lot as the outlet for those clip passes, and not like the Wan-Bissaka or Delo.
Yeah, it doesn't go that way.
Yeah,
and I just think it like you said, it would be so good to not have to worry about it. Last season, the goalkeeper was such a talking point because he would cost us big games, and he's coming to the end of his contract and all this stuff. And it's just, I don't want to worry about this. We've already got Sancho and Casemiro and all the injuries, and is Hojlund getting enough goals? Is Rashford getting enough goals to worry about? I want the goalkeeper to just be, he's been quite good actually recently. Like again, the same thing I said about Maguire about a month ago, and we're seeing it a little bit. I just want to not have to talk about him for a few weeks. Obviously, if he saves a penalty, I'm happy to talk. But I want to just not think about Onana and go, oh, you did all right today, yeah. But what about this? Rather than, I've got to talk about Onana again. Let's move on. We talked about him just then. But Hojlund as well as another one. Here it is, Merry Rasmus. Not sure about that. This is...
all right. I didn't know this was a thing, so it was deliberate. Okay.
So here it is, Merry Christmas. Slade, innit?
Slade.
But we're not really at Christmas time yet. I suppose we're not far off now.
Harry Rasmus. Merry Rasmus.
Hojlund is having a lot of fun, and he's looking to the future now. It's only just begun. I know I have to perform every day because I play for United. I am not the finished article yet. I still have a lot to improve. And what?
You could have done Merry Rasmus Hojlund.
What about that, Alexei?
It's not as long though.
Well, I'll have your good and badge on my desk in the morning. He says, I still have a lot to improve and I'm getting there slowly. I reckon that I've had a fine start to the season. We have to keep building and the goals will come in the Premier League. When asked about the fans, Hojlund said, I tried to show personality. I want to give 110% every time I play a football match. Maybe that is the reason why they're showing a special bond towards me. What do you make of Hojlund's start? No goals in the Premier League, 3 goals in total. Not amazing in terms of numbers. Are you seeing good signs? If you take the goals away, whether he scored 10 or 3, what are you seeing?
I see a ridiculous amount of potential in Hojlund. I know he hasn't hit the ground running in the Premier League. He's had 2 goals. Has he had 2 goals disallowed in the Premier League as well? Or did he have 1 disallowed against Galatasaray and 1 disallowed against Brighton?
Yeah, I think there's another one in there as well.
And there might be another one. I know he was like a centimetre away from scoring against Sheffield United with the Rashford. I think once he scores, I think the goals are going to come in flurries. I think he's one of the more complete striker prospects that we could have got actually in Europe. Especially, you got to remember, this man or boy is only 20 years old. As much as he doesn't look like it, I think people look at Hojlund and think and forget how young he actually is. At 20 years old, he's strong, he's quick, he can hold the ball up. He's got a lot of ability actually. He's quite technically sound for his height. And he's powerful. I have no doubts that Hojlund's going to have a very, very, very good United career and a very good footballing career in general, because he's got literally all the tools, and his profile is actually a very, very, very scary one. And I think when the team around him becomes better, unifies a little bit better, gets opportunities made for him a little bit more, I think we're going to see the best of him. I think this season we wanted to only see like around, maybe if he gets to 10, 15 goals, it'd be promising. And I think next season, I think he's got all the ability to become that 20 plus a season striker. Yeah,
I completely agree. I think, like you said, his hold-up play, some of his little flicks inside the box, and it's not whether he's got the ability, because I've got the ability to just flick a ball, around the corner with a back heel. It's seeing it at full speed against, Champions League opposition, getting in those positions. He did it against Arsenal. He was the touch before the assist for Garnacho's disallowed goal, a little flick around the corner. Like, these little things aren't easy to execute, over and over again at the top level. And like you said, for someone of his size, with his strength, with his willingness and sort of energy to get to the near post, to get, into the middle of the box to try and put the ball in the back of the net, like you said, I'm seeing a lot of fundamentals and things that he does consistently that aren't flukes, that aren't just, oh, look at the draw. His touch is better than you would think it would be. His running is fantastic. And when he does get in those positions, it looks like his finishing's good as well.
I honestly feel like it would be an indictment on United if Hojlund doesn't become one of the better strikers in Europe. From what I've seen of him, I think it will be an indictment on United, the setup, the training, the managerial staff, the team building around him, if he doesn't actually come good, because I think there's no reason why he shouldn't, and United don't have a good track record of late of signing players and them actually improving throughout the course of their career. Yeah. So hopefully Hojlund's someone that is different. I
think that's a good point. If he doesn't make it, not necessarily the best striker in Europe, but if he isn't a consistent 15 to 25 goal a season striker, at least, United have fucked up a little bit because he's got so many good things about his game already. Yeah, absolutely. Right, that's going to be all from us today. We'll be back tomorrow. We've got Off the Bar. The first time ever, it's in a bar. Me, Adam McCullough, and we've got Steve McInerney as well, looking ahead at the derby at the weekend. Are you looking forward to that?
Steve, yeah.
What?
Been Steve for Off the Bar.
No, we haven't binned him. There's 3 of us on there. You don't get to come on all the time.
Okay, no, cool.
It was great, actually.
Yeah, that should be quite fun. I'll be watching.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited.
You're going to be in here, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Half time.
I'm always here.
You're going to be on the stats.
Is it me and
Joe McGrath as well?
Yeah. Is it Jason Fingy's here as well?
I don't even know.
Ange.
Is she?
Yeah, she's meant to do the halftime show alongside me.
But well, there you go. That's
Jay's just not told you.
See, Jay didn't tell me anything anymore. Make sure you check out that. But obviously we've got loads more coming. Make sure you check out Off the Bar tomorrow.
Derby day.
I know. I'm nervous for that already. But we're looking ahead to the previews already, starting tomorrow, like I said, with Off the Bar. We're back in the morning for the news as well. Thank you for stepping in for Jay. A more than worthy replacement. No offence, Jay.
By the way, if you're looking at the height thing, Joel's 6'9".
I'm not 6'9".
I'm not sure.
I'm 6'4".
You're just 6'9".
And you've got high heels on, so I don't know what that says about you. See you in a bit.